everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. This week, I'm very excited to tell you that I will be talking to Aly and Kirree from the Isle of Man Hospice. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome.
Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, it's lovely to have you both. How are you?
Quite good, thank you.
So what have you been up to today?
Well, we've actually had a visit from Pudsey Bear today.
Oh.
Barclays Bank brought Pudsey Bear up, which was lovely to meet the children that were in today. Really nice.
It's Children in Need on Friday. So Barclays Bank always bring up Pudsey Bear to see us every year, to come and see the kids and play with them and then take some photos.
Oh, that's really sweet. So you both have very kindly come in today to talk about hospice and the brilliant work that they do. So could you start off by telling me what both of your roles are and what they entail?
I'm a nurse at Rebecca House. I have been working at hospice for donkey's years. I'm part of the furniture now. I was part of the Children's Hospice at Home team back from 2006, supporting families in their own homes before Rebecca House opened. And then hospice had its purpose-built building built up by Nobles Hospital. So I worked part-time as part of the team there until 2012, and then I've been full-time ever since. Do lots of play, care, memory making, and going with the flow of the kids and having as much fun as possible.
Oh, that sounds great.
And I'm one of the senior staff nurses. There's 3 senior staff nurses. We've got a really, really small team at the moment. There's only 9 of us. Well, there's 3 senior staff nurses, and then we've got our manager, and then there's 5. There's 5 nursery nurses and healthcare assistants. So I started at Rebecca House in 2010. So I've been there a really long time as well. I came straight to Rebecca House from uni, so I went to Edge Hill University and I trained as a paediatric nurse, and then went straight to Rebecca House from university. My day-to-day job consists of admin work, so I have to write care plans, go to meetings, do all that boring stuff, and then obviously I have a chance to play with the kids, and we get to know the children really well because a lot of the children are on our caseload for a long time.
Mm-hmm. So do you find it difficult having quite a small team?
No, it's really nice having a small team because we get to know each other really well. And obviously, like I said, both of us have been there for years, and I think it's quite telling that a lot of the staff have been there for 10 plus years. So it just shows what a lovely place it is to work.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I believe that hospice is celebrating 40 years of service this year. Can you tell me a bit about the history of hospice?
We'll try. Okay. So a lady called Nadine Crowther was supporting her husband, who was a GP on the Isle of Man. This was in the 1970s. And the formation of hospices in the UK was starting to arise. So she visited the hospices and she was particularly impressed with St Christopher's Hospice. And this inspired her to start a hospice at home service on the island. This was in 1983. And then once she had more funding, she purchased a building with beds, and then they moved to the old hospice, which was called St Bridget's. So that was in 1988, I think. And then they moved up to the site where we are now in 2007. So this is a fully purpose-built building with 11 bedrooms for the adult side of the hospice, which is called the inpatient unit, and then Rebecca House, where we were in a separate wing of the hospice, and then they've got the day unit for people that come in for day therapy sessions. There's obviously lots of different teams. There's, you've got your nurses, your healthcare assistants, the fundraising team, you've got physiotherapists that works there, OT, counselling service, which is a massive part which we'll chat about after. All the admin staff upstairs, so there's lots of people. It's a big building.
There's about 134, I think, staff in total.
Yeah.
But that includes the hospice shops. But we couldn't run without all the help from all of our volunteers that we have, both in hospice building and out in the shops and the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So what have hospice done to celebrate 40 years?
They've done lots of stuff this year. So there was a ball in the summer. They did an initiative called 40 for 40, I think it was called. They were encouraging the general public to either do 40 things or 40 minutes of something to raise money and get people to sponsor them. So I think within hospice the staff did a swimming challenge, and then they did a walking challenge on a treadmill.
For like 48 hours or something.
Something like that, yeah.
There was at least one member of staff on the go, wasn't there?
Yeah. Was it 40 hours? I can't remember.
It's a long time. It was definitely 24 maybe, I don't know. So definitely went through the night.
And then with the kids in Rebecca House, we did our own little challenges. So we had someone that did the 40-second wall sit, and then we had someone else that did 40 it was one of the toddlers, he did 40 rolls, so like roly-polies.
Oh, that's really cute. So why is hospice so important for our local community?
I think it touches the hearts of so many people on the island, whether that be with the children's side or with the adult side. I think most people on the island will have a relative or a friend who has had to use the hospice service at some point or other. So it touches people's hearts. They know how valuable the services are.
Absolutely.
So I know that hospice provides a variety of services, and I'd like to touch on some of them. So to begin with, could you please tell me about the palliative care?
Yeah, I think people often think palliative automatically means end of life care, and that's not necessarily the case. So having palliative care doesn't mean you're going to die now. It just means that people can be palliative for years. It just means that your
got
condition
shortened life.
Absolutely, yeah. So people are referred to hospice. They might be referred to initially for symptom management. They might need emotional or social support, spiritual care. Within Rebecca House, the children are referred to us, and they might be on our caseload for years. That might not necessarily be palliative care to begin with. It might turn into that, or it might be the case that people are referred to Rebecca House and they actually don't need our services anymore, and then they're discharged. So both the services vary. I think Rebecca House in particular, we're different to a children's hospice in the UK, because obviously they're much bigger and they would have a different sort of caseload, but because we're such a small island, our team and our caseload, we're able to take or to have children for like a much longer period of time. So we have children on our caseloads for 10 plus years,
and we see them regularly, whereas hospices in the UK tend to only offer block respite. So they'd only see a child maybe once or twice a year, whereas a lot of our children come in on a weekly basis, depending on how the families want to use their care. Yeah. Because the families get assessed to do with their needs, and their needs determine how many hours they get given care for. And we're very lucky over here that we can tailor the care to what the families request. Yeah. So they might request daytime care or tea time sessions after school or overnight care, or they might wish to save up their monthly hours and then have block stay. So if the family needed to go away but it wasn't appropriate for the child with the additional needs to go with them, then they know that the child's in a safe place and having fun.
Yeah, I can imagine that's such a relief, you know. Yeah, I guess if you were away without your child, it would be a very sort of anxiety-inducing thing. So knowing that they're in a safe place would really help.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And a lot of the families, although they might have a good support network with throughout their families might not be confident with the specialist skills that child needs, like the medical needs. So when the child comes into Rebecca House, they know that they're with experienced staff who can cater for their medical needs, but in a home from home environment where they can have as much fun and relaxation as they want.
Yeah, that's really good. So could you tell me a bit about the end of life care that hospice provides?
Hospice, as in the adult side, so the end of life care that they offer, they offer treatment and support for people who are near the end of life, and it is defined as care that is provided in the last year of life. The end stage of life, which is known as terminal care, that can be days to weeks, and at that point they can either be cared for within the hospice or the hospice at home. And then in Rebecca House as well, we would care for children at end of life within the last days, weeks, months. We would care for them in Rebecca House or at home. It is their parents' preference. But fortunately, it's not something that we have to do regularly within Rebecca House. We don't have a lot of end of life care.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So could you tell me about the Forget Me Not Admiral nursing team?
The Forget Me Not Admiral nursing team provide nursing support to people living with dementia and their families, and this is funded by the Forget Me Not charity and delivered in partnership with Dementia UK.
So I could imagine that being in hospice or having a relative who is in hospice could be quite a stressful experience. So I wonder if you could tell me about the psychological support that hospice offer.
So we've got, I think there's a team of 3 at the moment in the psychological support team. So they provide counselling, psychotherapy and clinical psychology, which they offer to hospice patients, relatives, carers, and it gives them a chance to discuss their feelings and experiences in a therapeutic environment. You can be referred to the psychological support team by any member of the hospice team, and staff can access that as well. Oh yeah, and we also have the Young Person Support Service, which has been running since 2013. So it's Geraldine who runs that service. So she's also a nursery nurse in Rebecca House, and her contract is split. So she works half in Rebecca House and then half up with the Young Person Support Service. So she offers support to young people under the age of 21. So they themselves might have a life-limiting illness, or they might have a family member who is or has been a patient of Hospice Isle of Man or Rebecca House. So she supports them through one-to-one sessions, and they also have a drop-in day every other Wednesday in Jade's Place at Hospice.
Yeah, and Jade's Place, really nice environment, isn't
lovely,
it?
yeah.
It's a bit like a youth club,
Yeah.
trendy youth club, and everybody that attends there, they're all in the same sort of situation, so it's a bit of downtime where they can talk as much as they choose to, or just choose to play and have a bit of social time.
Oh, that's good. I can imagine that being able to interact with people who know what you're going through is really comforting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I believe that hospice also provides support for the patient's families. So could you tell me a bit about that?
The families can access the counselling if they feel they need to, and they can also access complementary therapies as well. A lot of our families have very stressful lives. They have a lot of things to juggle with all the additional needs, and they're involved in so many different agencies. It's a very complicated life that they deal with. So for them to actually have some time to themselves, to actually look after themselves and have a bit of me time, it is really good that we offer that service, that they can have a bit of complementary therapy and unwind and just recharge themselves a little bit.
Yeah, that is really good. So obviously you guys both work for Rebecca House, and I know from personal experience how wonderful Rebecca House is. So can you tell me a bit about Rebecca House and the services that they provide?
Yeah, so the requirement for Rebecca House it probably started way before this, but the movement to actually have a physical building started in 2003, primarily because of the family of 2-year-old Ben Cowell. He required specialist paediatric palliative care, but he had to go to Liverpool and go to Clare House because there was nowhere here for him to go. And I think previously, before that, people would either have to go to the adult hospice, which then would have been St Bridget's, or they would have had to go to Children's Ward. Alternatively, they would have had to go to Clare House or a different hospice in the UK. So Ben's mum started campaigning because she wasn't happy with the lack of services on the island. So around 2006, a team of nurses and nursery nurses began doing hospice at home, which was Kirree, amongst some other girls who are still working with us now. So they began doing hospice at home shifts and then moved into Rebecca House, the building that we're in now, in 2007. Rebecca House is a purpose-built facility it's got 4 bedrooms. We provide respite, palliative and end-of-life care for children with life-limiting or life-threatening conditions from birth to 18 years.
We've recently had a bit of a refurb as well, because it was brilliant that we had the purpose-built building back in 2007, but technology changes, and as a because we were a new service as well, we learn exactly what we needed, the things that we needed. So we've been really lucky that we've had this revamp, and we've now got a messy room which is attached through so you go in through the day room and you've got like this big messy room which is like an art room, so we can have role play. We're not all centred around the dinner table anymore and having to tidy up our activities every meal time. We've now got a purpose-built family apartment for families when it comes to end-of-life care, or we've also used it if we've got families where their little ones stay in for an overnight stay for the first time, but the family's nervous about it. The families have used the apartment and had a little staycation themselves while the child stays with us overnight, which is really good. I think it's very valuable.
Yeah, and we had some new hoist systems built, so a lot of our children are wheelchair users, so it means that they can be hoisted straight from their bed, across the hallway, into the bathroom. They can go straight into the bath, have a shower. We've got a jacuzzi bath, we've got shower trolleys, we've got a full wet room. Then they can go straight back into their wheelchair afterwards. And then we've got a full H-frame hoist in our day room as well. And the day room's probably where we spend the most of our time. It's like a living room. We're like a family. Yeah. And we sit and play board games and play on the Wii and dance and sing and
lots of floor play.
Yeah,
and we try and eat as a family, don't we?
Yeah, we all sit around the table together.
We're lucky enough to have a new playground as well. I don't know whether you remember the playground just off the day room.
I do, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was a bit of a trip hazard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The flooring wasn't the best. It was a little bit uneven. So we've now got a purpose-built playground where there's a wheelchair trampoline and wheelchair roundabout and a big bowl swing, so all the kids can access, whether they're able-bodied or in a wheelchair, and we can bring the portable hoist out if we need to hoist the kids onto the swing.
And that was fundraised by Dylan, who actually comes to Balcombe as well. So he climbed up Snaith Fell and did lots of walking and raised a lot of money to pay for us to have a new playground.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I mean, that is brilliant. So how is hospice funded?
Obviously, it's a charity, so the annual running costs are around 5.5 to 6 million a year. We receive 1.2 million from Manx Care and 125,000 from the Diane, Princess of Wales Hospice at Home Trust, which helps partly fund the Hospice at Home 24/7 team. The rest is through kind donations, legacies, grants, and of course from our hospice shops.
Right, okay. So what can people do to help hospice?
Well, every penny helps, whether it's donating an item that you're no longer using. It can get sold in the hospice shop. We've got a lot of volunteers who donate their time to either the hospice shops or the actual hospice building, either volunteering on the reception desk or in Elaine's cafe, which is a cafe open to the public, and it helps to generate an income to fund hospice. We'd be lost without the volunteers, really, wouldn't we?
Yeah. The general public can attend an event. So, for an example, the Hospice Christmas Fair. There's lots of events that people do for hospice. They can hold their own events. They can organise their own event or activity. They can play the hospice lottery. There's something called Pay for a Day, so you can donate a certain amount of money and you can pay for a session at Rebecca House, so that'll pay for the children to go out and do an activity. So we go out a lot. We go bowling, we take the kids for ice cream, we go to the park, but sometimes if we've got older kids, we like to do something a bit different. So we might want to take the kids to 8 Man or Laser Blast, or something a bit different, but it's people can pay to fund out our days out, basically, or they can pay to fund sibling days. So some of the girls from work run a really, really popular sibling group, so that's the siblings of the children on our caseload, and they went camping in the summer. They've been to 8 Man, they've been to the Shred House. They come and they did a crazy golf. They do loads of stuff, and it's really popular. It's a brilliant group, and that's another chance for siblings to meet other siblings and know that they're not alone in being part of kind of a more complex family unit, which is really nice as well.
And all the services that hospice provides are all free of charge to the patients.
Yeah.
So the funding through donations and hospice shops and all sorts is vital for us to be able to keep going and offer much services as possible.
Yeah. Obviously businesses are really, really good to help, and they volunteer and they might help in the garden, or they come and spend the day in hospice. That's another way to help. You can nominate us in your workplace, and naming hospice as your charity of the year is a great opportunity to support hospice.
And it's getting information about hospice and Rebecca House out to the public. We're not a scary place. We're all about memory making the most of life.
Yeah.
And
Rebecca House is just such a lovely place to work, and it's a lovely place to be, and I would encourage anyone just come up and have a look, because it's such a nice place.
Yeah. And
it's, especially since we had the refurb, the decoration's lovely, the furniture that Kirree picked out is lovely. Kirree helped with the refurb. It's a nice place. It's a lovely place to work.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely place to be in general.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel having used the service, Evie. I don't know what you remember about it. Do you remember coming up to Rebecca House?
I have very vague memories, but I do remember it, yes. Because it was when I was like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But yes, I do have very vague memories of it, and I do remember always really enjoying it.
That's good.
We both looked after you when you were the baby.
I think I do remember both of you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of humph.
Yeah. That was when I first started working at Rebecca House.
Yeah.
And I can just remember you were very into musical instruments.
Yeah.
And your speech for your age was incredible. And people kept telling you what to say. So, say this, Evie, say... And you were saying the most complicated words. But because you were just so bright and you knew... In fact, we've got videos of you talking. And I thought that your voice might still be the same. Because I couldn't imagine how your voice would sound now. Because obviously you were like 2 years old then.
Yeah. Yeah, still into... All the musical side of things. I'm in 2 choirs. I play the flute.
Wow.
In the Manx Youth Orchestra, so that's not faded away at all.
Oh, brilliant.
And then obviously, still I would say quite a good talker, and that's what got me the podcast really. My voice. So yeah, nothing really changed actually.
No, you were lovely to work with, Evie. Yeah. Like we've got fond memories of working with you.
We've got a picture up actually that your mum gave us that says "You are wonderful," or "You are simply wonderful."
Yeah.
And then it says Evie Roberts, and then the years that you attended Rebecca House underneath, and it's still up in the corridor.
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, thank you so much to both of you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and talk to me.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been lovely to see you.
And thank you to my audience for listening, and I will see you all next time.